old school pickup truck is getting a new school makeover. Commercial truck maker Workhorse is unveiling its new plug-in hybrid pickup truck.
Dealers are begging buyers to take trucks they once marked up like gold. That desperation is the loudest alarm yet. What looks like a sale is actually a sign of collapse. Factories kept building, families stopped buying, and now entire lots are drowning in unsold machines.
Pickup trucks have become so imposing over the years, and apparently this is a problem.
But the truth behind these markdowns goes far beyond cars. It reaches into jobs and communities. What forced this sudden reversal? Why did executives ignore the warnings? And how much farther can prices fall before the system cracks? The cliff. For years, pickup trucks were the financial crown jewels of American car makers. These machines carried price tags that rivaled luxury sedans, with top trims routinely climbing above $80,000. Yet in the space of months, the market shifted so dramatically that the same trucks are now showing up at distressed sales for as low as $20,000. For dealers who once bragged about long wait lists and sky-high markups, the fall has been nothing short of catastrophic. The crash was not caused by a single spark, but by a dangerous combination of overproduction and shrinking consumer demand. Manufacturers kept their factories humming, convinced that buyers would always line up for bigger, more powerful trucks. At the same time, rising interest rates and higher monthly payments built a wall between ordinary families and the vehicles they once aspired to own. When shoppers pulled back, inventories piled up, and dealers were stuck paying daily interest on unsold trucks that turned into financial anchors. Mike, a contractor in the Midwest, illustrates how surreal the moment has become. After his old truck's transmission failed, he visited a local lot and found a nearly new model offered at $12,000 off its sticker. For a moment, he thought he had struck gold, but as he began signing papers, hidden fees appeared, his trade-in value collapsed, and a whispering advisor warned of long waits for replacement parts. What looked like salvation turned into a trap. And yet Mike's ordeal revealed the deeper truth. When inventory rots, desperation takes over. Dealers can mask it with smiles and shiny showrooms, but behind the scenes, every day of aging costs them $50 or more in interest. That pressure will shape every conversation that follows. But if overproduction opened the wound, it was the electric gamble that poured salt on it. The EV miss. The electric revolution was sold as destiny. Ford rolled out the F-150 Lightning with banners declaring it the future of work, a truck that would reinvent the job site and the family driveway. General Motors followed with promises of electrified Silverados and GMCs that would outshine anything built before. Executives predicted endless waiting lists. Instead, reality delivered half-empty lots, skeptical buyers, and production cuts. The Lightning became the cautionary tale. On paper, its towing capacity seemed impressive, but in practice, owners who hauled boats or trailers discovered that the range collapsed by nearly half, leaving them hunting for chargers that often failed to work. In cold weather, range dropped by 40% or more, turning a supposed workhorse into a very expensive driveway ornament. Word spread quickly, and enthusiasm curdled into suspicion. Dealers who ordered aggressively now face a nightmare. Every unsold Lightning sitting on a lot bleeds roughly $40 to $50 per day in carrying costs. Resale values sink faster than battery percentages in a snowstorm, and buyers walk in demanding discounts that would have been unthinkable 2 years ago. Corporate managers whisper about refreshes and production adjustments, but the translation is simple. Demand missed, and the gamble backfired. Sarah, a Michigan electrician, summed it up bitterly. "I thought I was buying the future. Instead, I bought a $75,000 science experiment." Her words echo across communities where buyers once believed in the promise of electricity, but now feel burned. And if electrics lost their shine, the so-called luxury flagships turned into monuments of hubris. Luxury collapse. When General Motors unveiled the GMC Hummer EV, the message was clear. This was the Halo truck, a six-figure electric colossus that would prove American dominance in both technology and design. Yet today, many of those same trucks sit untouched for more than 100 days, their tires gathering dust while floor plan interest devours dealer profits. The problems were obvious to anyone who drove one. The Hummer weighs more than some dump trucks, devours $400 tires, and delivers a real-world range under load closer to 150 miles. Buyers who could afford six figures quickly realized they preferred vehicles that actually worked. What was pitched as a revolution now looks like a miscalculation. One dealer confided that a single Hummer EV had cost nearly $19,000 in interest during its unsold stay on the lot. At this point, he admitted, "I would rather give it away than keep paying to store it." These trucks were supposed to elevate prestige, but instead they humiliated both brand and dealer. The Escalade IQ, another six-figure experiment, followed the same path. Price tags soared into territory once reserved for European exotics, yet demand dried up almost immediately. The market for ultra-luxury trucks turned out to be microscopic, and dealers misjudged it badly. These vehicles, intended to embody excess and pride, have become symbols of failure. Shoppers walk past them, shaking their heads at the absurdity of paying mansion prices for machines that cannot even guarantee convenience. And while luxury trucks sat unsold as status symbols, the workhorses that should have been reliable betrayed the very people who depended on them. Broken workhorses. For generations, diesel pickups carried an aura of invincibility. Farmers, builders, and contractors trusted them to haul, tow, and endure endless miles of punishment. That trust has been shattered by modern emission systems that turned reliability into fragility. Trucks once hailed as bulletproof now limp into service bays with injector failures at 30,000 miles, limp mode glitches triggered by minor sensors, and repair bills that climb into the thousands before the first payment book is even half finished. Fleet managers are among the angriest. One in Ohio purchased 12 heavy-duty diesels, only to watch 8 of them sidelined simultaneously by emission failures. "I am financing more than $500,000 in trucks I cannot even use," he said bitterly. Dealers promised durability. Instead, they delivered rolling liabilities. Owners like Sarah from Colorado echo the frustration. Her Ram Cummins still had power, but the transmission and emission system collapsed just after warranty coverage ended. She has spent nearly $7,000 in repairs within 2 years. "My old Ram never saw the inside of a shop," she sighed. This one lives there. Dealers, saddled with high-priced heavy-duty stock, now face the worst scenario. Buyers know the risks, and word spreads faster than any marketing campaign can contain. Trucks once priced at $70,000 or more now require deep discounts just to lure cautious buyers. And that betrayal cuts deepest because when the vehicles meant for hard labor fail, they undermine not just balance sheets, but livelihoods. But as shocking as these failures are, they are only the beginning. The deeper story lies in how complexity and pricing power collided to break the market apart. Dumb outcomes. Automakers believed they had cracked the code to fuel efficiency. Instead of redesigning entire engines, they turned to clever tricks like cylinder deactivation, a system meant to shut down half the cylinders during light driving to save fuel. On paper, it looked brilliant. In practice, it became a ticking time bomb. Owners of General Motors pickups discovered that lifters, the tiny components responsible for activating and deactivating cylinders, failed with shocking regularity. When they collapsed, they dragged camshafts down with them, leaving trucks with ruined engines at 60,000 miles or less. The promise of saving a few miles per gallon quickly gave way to $4,000 to $6,000 repair bills. For buyers who had just signed on for $80,000 trucks, the betrayal was unforgivable. Service departments became flooded with complaints, and word of the defect spread through forums and job sites like wildfire. A technology that was supposed to prove innovation turned into proof of arrogance. Dealers soon discovered that every truck equipped with cylinder deactivation carried a silent warning label. Contractors walked onto lots, asking pointed questions, demanding written coverage for lifter replacements, or simply avoiding these trucks altogether. Inventories aged, floor plan costs mounted, and the technology that had been touted as revolutionary revealed itself as a liability. This fiasco set the tone for a broader problem: complexity disguised as progress. And the next wave of complexity arrived not through lifters, but through turbos and hybrid systems that promised everything and delivered chaos. Fragile tech. The transition toward electrification pushed automakers to embrace hybrids and turbocharging, often combining both in search of power and efficiency. But the more wires, sensors, and high-strain components were added, the more fragile trucks became. Toyota, a brand long celebrated for bulletproof reliability, introduced its twin-turbo hybrid system with bold claims. Yet owners soon reported timing chain issues, overheating turbos, and limp mode failures while towing. The very company that built its reputation on 300,000-mile engines suddenly looked vulnerable. Ford's PowerBoost hybrid told a similar story. Instead of offering peace of mind, It doubled repair bills. Failures in battery cooling systems triggered electrical faults that ordinary mechanics could not diagnose. When breakdowns came, they were twice as expensive and twice as slow to repair. Buyers expecting a bridge between gasoline and electric power instead found themselves beta testing first-generation technology. What made these failures sting most was the contrast with buyer expectations. Truck owners do not buy laboratory experiments. They buy work machines. When trucks sputtered under load or faltered in hot weather, confidence evaporated. Every limp mode incident or hybrid battery replacement turned into another cautionary tale spreading across communities that once saw trucks as untouchable. Dealers, meanwhile, stared at rows of unsold hybrid and turbo models, each day draining $50 in interest, while buyers demanded steep discounts to accept the risk. Technology meant to lift prices ended up crushing them, and if fragile complexity haunted full-size trucks, the pain was amplified when manufacturers tried to squeeze the same risky systems into smaller packages. Mid-size pain. Mid-size trucks were supposed to offer simplicity. Carmakers pitched them as practical alternatives, cheaper, easier to park, and supposedly more reliable. Instead, they inherited the very worst traits of their full-size siblings while charging nearly the same price. The Chevrolet Colorado and GMC Canyon suffered from transmission shutters, rear differential failures, and electronics that glitched like beta software. The Ford Ranger reintroduced turbo and transmission problems in a smaller, costlier-to-service package. Nissan's Frontier added its own chaos, with 9-speed transmissions that felt half-baked and dual clutch options that wore out quickly. Owners who chose mid-size models to escape complexity quickly learned they had paid more for less. One Nevada driver described his Colorado as a $38,000 truck that behaves like a $3,000 beater. That kind of testimonial spreads fast in the contractor and enthusiast community, devastating resale values and slowing new sales. For dealers, the disaster compounded. Mid-size trucks were once reliable sellers, often moving quickly off lots. Now they lingered, racking up 90 days or more in carrying costs. Managers realized the bitter truth. Shrinking the truck did not shrink the problems. It simply made them more expensive per pound. By the time mid-size buyers caught on, reputations were already tarnished. Service departments could not keep up, warranty extensions were issued quietly, and marketing campaigns failed to hide the reality that supposed simplicity had turned into concentrated complexity. And yet, mid-size disappointments were only one piece of the puzzle. The deeper collapse came from trucks that were abandoned altogether, leaving buyers stranded with orphans and outdated platforms. If you're still watching, you know how serious this is. Hit the like button so more people see what's really happening, and drop a comment with your thoughts. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs. Orphaned trucks. The crash reached its most visible form in trucks that were never meant to survive. Nissan's Titan, once hyped as a full-size contender, received its corporate death sentence after years of underwhelming sales. Dealers now sit on orphaned inventory that depreciates faster than anything else on their lots. Buyers know the truth. Discontinued trucks mean poor parts availability, brutal resale values, and little long-term support. A Titan left on a lot for 180 days is less an opportunity than a burden, bleeding thousands in interest before a desperate sale finally clears it. Ram tried a different tactic with the Classic, a recycled older platform sold alongside newer models. The idea was to keep using paid-for tooling and capture budget-conscious buyers. Instead, the Classic highlighted how far behind the design had fallen. Rough rides, outdated interiors, and persistent lifter problems made it clear that yesterday's truck was being sold at today's prices. Customers balked, and inventory stacked up. Hyundai's Santa Cruz revealed yet another failure: a confused identity. Marketed as a crossover pickup, it appealed to neither truck buyers nor car buyers. Its dual-clutch transmission proved unreliable, its bed too small for real work, and its positioning too odd to build loyalty. Dealers discovered that vehicles designed for microscopic niches become millstones when demand softens. And while these abandoned experiments rot on lots, the bigger story is how ordinary people are now paying the price, financially, culturally, and socially, as the crash ripples outward. Broken buyers. For decades, the pickup truck was not just transportation, it was aspiration. Families saved for years to buy one, contractors signed loans believing the truck itself would pay them back through work, and young drivers saw ownership as a rite of passage. But when interest rates soared and sticker prices crossed $80,000, aspiration turned into suffocation. Monthly payments that once sat comfortably at $400 ballooned to nearly $1,200, shattering household budgets already strained by groceries and housing. The pain did not end at the dealership. Repair bills added insult to injury. Cylinder deactivation failures, turbo replacements, and complex emission systems meant that even relatively new trucks carried repair costs that rivaled mortgage payments. Contractors missed jobs while waiting weeks for parts, losing thousands in income they could not afford to sacrifice. Families who once viewed trucks as security now saw them as financial traps, bleeding money while delivering little reliability. And if the buyers felt crushed by monthly payments, the dealers holding thousands of unsold trucks were being broken in a different way, by the relentless math of interest costs. Dealer bleed. Walk through the back lot of a dealership today, and you will see more than trucks. You will see dollar signs evaporating into thin air. Every unsold truck represents a silent drain, roughly $50 per day in floor plan interest. The financing costs dealers pay to keep inventory on the books. A truck that sits 120 days bleeds $6,000 in hidden expense before it is sold. Multiply that across dozens of vehicles, and entire dealerships find themselves drowning. Managers once bragged about having the largest selection in town. Now they beg manufacturers to stop shipping. Sales staff are instructed to push aging vehicles first, sometimes offering discounts so steep they erase profit margins. Behind the smiles and handshakes is genuine panic. Many dealers privately admit they would rather sell at a loss than continue watching interest charges eat them alive. Corporate pressure only makes things worse. Automakers measure dealership performance by throughput, punishing low-volume sellers even when the market itself has collapsed. Managers find themselves trapped between corporate quotas and local reality. They must either slash prices to move metal or risk corporate retaliation. Either way, the balance sheet bleeds red, but the crisis does not stop at the dealer lot. In boardrooms across Detroit, Wolfsburg, and Tokyo, executives are making decisions that shrink the industry itself. Corporate retreat. Not long ago, Ford, General Motors, and Volkswagen poured billions into new plants, betting that demand for trucks and electric vehicles would soar. Executives spoke of endless growth, announcing expansions in Texas, Michigan, and Europe. But the collapse in consumer appetite and the drag of unsold inventory forced a reversal. Expansion gave way to retrenchment. Ford quietly scaled back Lightning production, citing market adjustments. General Motors delayed entire electric truck projects, pausing billions in investment until consumer confidence returns. Volkswagen, once intent on capturing the American market with its ID series, slowed its timelines and began focusing resources back on Europe and China. Boardrooms that once celebrated aggressive growth now prioritize survival, protecting margins rather than chasing volume. These retrenchments rippled downward. When executives cut shifts at plants, entire towns feel the blow. Suppliers receive fewer orders, workers face layoffs or reduced hours, and dealers are told to prepare for leaner shipments, even while they struggle to move existing stock. The image of a confident industry steering toward the future has cracked, replaced by cautious moves designed to stem losses. And as corporate strategies turn defensive, the cultural meaning of the truck itself begins to unravel, leaving a deeper wound than any balance sheet adjustment. Badge loss. For generations, the pickup truck was not just a vehicle. It was a badge of identity. Driving one meant independence, strength, and belonging to a uniquely American tradition. Ads showed cowboys, construction crews, and families conquering wide-open landscapes with trucks as their companions. But when trucks became synonymous with crushing debt, endless repairs, and corporate deception, the badge lost its shine. Today, owning a new truck often sparks skepticism instead of admiration. Neighbors wonder how long before the payment overwhelms the buyer. Friends ask whether the lifters will fail or the turbo will collapse before warranty runs out. Contractors who once proudly displayed new models now keep older, simpler trucks longer, preferring reliability over flashy status. The cultural script has flipped. Reliability is pride, not price. Even political symbolism has shifted. Trucks once stood as markers of patriotism and hard work, but now they symbolize corporate greed and broken promises. When a $70,000 diesel fails before 50,000 miles, the myth of invincibility collapses. Communities that defined themselves by trucks now wrestle with embarrassment and anger, seeing their cultural icon reduced to a liability. And as identity erodes, the stage is set for the final reckoning: how politics, labor, and global rivals will exploit the collapse, and how buyers themselves might turn the tide. Policy whiplash. Government policy was supposed to stabilize the shift to electric vehicles. Instead, it has become a source of chaos. Subsidies, tariffs, and tax credits swing wildly depending on which party is in power and which industries are lobbying hardest. One year, buyers receive $7,500 federal credits for electric trucks. The next year, those credits shrink or vanish for models assembled outside specific regions. Meanwhile, tariffs on imported batteries raise costs by thousands, only to be offset by state-level subsidies that confuse buyers even more. This volatility creates pricing instability that ripples through the entire market. Families hesitate to buy because they cannot predict whether a tax incentive will still exist when they file next year's returns. Dealers cannot advertise clear-out-the-door prices because rebates may disappear before vehicles are delivered. Automakers find themselves whipsawed by sudden policy changes that alter cost structures overnight. And while policy chaos keeps markets jittery, the people on the assembly lines have begun to realize they hold more leverage than ever before. We're not finished yet, but if this breakdown has opened your eyes, hit subscribe now. That way, you'll never miss the next update. And you'll always stay ahead while others get blindsided. Stay sharp, stay subscribed. Labor's leverage. Every slowdown in production ripples first through workers. Assembly line shifts cut from 3 to 2. Temporary layoffs announced with little warning. Overtime evaporating overnight. These are the realities hitting auto workers as demand shrinks. But instead of bowing quietly, unions have discovered a new kind of power. When dealers are choking on unsold inventory and manufacturers are desperate to trim costs, labor actions gain sharper teeth. A strike lasting even 2 weeks can throw corporate forecasts into chaos, adding millions in lost revenue to balance sheets already bleeding from discounts and warranty repairs. Workers understand that management cannot afford long disruptions, and they are pushing harder for wage increases, better benefits, and guarantees of job security during the messy transition to electrification. Plant towns feel the anxiety intensely. Families wonder whether to keep mortgages. Young workers debate whether to follow their parents into factory jobs, and local economies brace for contractions. Yet at the same time, there is pride in the realization that labor has leverage it has not enjoyed in decades. For the first time in years, management cannot ignore demands without risking catastrophic disruption. Because even as factories wobble, global rivals are sharpening their knives and moving in for the kill. Rivals move in. Across the Pacific, Chinese automakers see opportunity. Companies like BYD and SAIC are preparing mid-size and budget pickups priced far below American or European competition. By leveraging vertically integrated supply chains and cheaper labor, they can build trucks that cost $15,000 to produce and still turn a profit at $20,000. Compared to legacy automakers burdened with $30,000 production costs, the gap is staggering. These global rivals are not aiming at prestige markets. They are targeting the exact middle ground where affordability matters most. Contractors, families, and small businesses that once stretched budgets for Fords or Chevrolets may soon find imported options with competitive range, solid reliability, and half the sticker price. Once tariffs or trade barriers shift, and history shows they always do, foreign pickups could flood showrooms and further undercut domestic brands already fighting for survival. Europe faces the same threat. Volkswagen's slowing momentum leaves room for Chinese competitors to capture buyers who want modern features without luxury prices. In Latin America and Africa, where price sensitivity is extreme, the arrival of cheap imports may cement Chinese dominance for decades. And as global competition intensifies, individual buyers back home realize they suddenly hold the upper hand in a market where desperation runs deeper than loyalty. Your advantage. For years, the buyer walked into the dealership on uneven ground. Sales managers controlled the numbers, padded fees, and pressured customers with talk of scarcity. That world is gone. Today, knowledge is leverage, and the market has flipped in favor of the informed consumer. The first rule is simple. Always ask for the vehicles that have been sitting longer than 90 days. Every day of age costs dealers $40 to $50, and by the 4th month, they are already thousands in the hole. Knowing this gives you power. The second rule. Demand written coverage for the specific systems most likely to fail, whether lifters, hybrids, or emission components. Do not accept vague promises. Insist on line items in the contract. The third rule, Compare offers aggressively. A manager will fold faster when shown a competitor's out-the-door price on the same model. Buyers like Mike, the contractor who once nearly walked into a trap, are now flipping the script. By walking away and forcing managers to call back, by demanding clarity on hidden fees, and by refusing add-ons, ordinary people are saving $5,000 to $10,000 on trucks that would have bankrupted them just a year ago. And with that shift, the crash that once threatened to destroy consumers may instead empower them to write the next chapter of the truck market story. So here's the truth. What's happening in the truck market isn't just about vehicles. It's about survival, leverage, and protecting your future. Dealers are bleeding, corporations are retreating, and buyers like you finally hold the power. Don't walk away uninformed. Hit subscribe right now so you never miss the strategies that keep you ahead while others get crushed. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear your story, and share this video with someone who needs the wake-up call. Knowledge is power, but only if you act on it.